At this time, I'm going to introduce Ayya Suvijjana, who will be giving our talk. It's a little bit dim in the picture, but it'll be good enough, I hope.
Should we move maybe the table? Maybe?
That's good enough. And I need to change the microphone so that they can hear you. See if they can hear you.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham namasami. So tonight I have this talk that the Dhamma arose from the title because I didn't know who was going to be speaking this evening, and I thought, well, it's going to be unexpected, and also I had some anticipation of Ayya Suvijjana speaking, and I was anticipating a brilliant Dhamma talk. And so I thought, well, I'll just name it because they were asking we need to title in advance. And so it just came up an unexpected, brilliant Dhamma. But this is actually what the Lord Buddha's teaching is because we have these expectations of reality and things that to be a particular way, and they're not. And so the Dhamma, because it's other than we wish the world to be, and we're thinking that this is the right way it should be, and this is what's going to bring us happiness, is because of our expectations and desires and such. And then when all that dissolves away, there's this brilliant Dhamma that's revealed. So I'm going to start out with some misconceptions that are counter to what's often called things as they are, or they're not in accordance with reality. So I have some written notes here. I'm going to go back and forth between that, and I have some sutta extracts that I'd like to share with you. So the Dhamma is other than what people commonly hold as true. And I have an extract from the Sutta Nipata, which is often quoted. What others call happiness, that the noble ones declare to be suffering. What others call suffering, that the noble ones have found to be happiness. So this is somewhat indicating that those expectations we have of life, and then it's turned upside down. when we really enter the truth of when we really penetrate the truth. And we've been talking about stream entry, and I've heard the description of stream entry as being spontaneous and unexpected, that things come together, the wisdom that arises because conditions have allowed that. When we're doing our practice and study of the Dhamma and all that, this is kind of laying these conditions, but we can't force it. It's not something that we can force. So part of our journey is to look at where we have these misconceptions. This is the ignorance that's blocking the brilliance of our wisdom of our mind. So I have from the Anguttara Nikaya, there's a teaching on the 4 vipalasas. And this is, Bhante Sujato translates them as perversions of perception. And they're often translated as misperceptions. So I'm reading a very small extract. Mendicants, there are these 4 perversions of perception: mind and view. So the perception of perversions of all 3 of these: perversions of perception, perversion of mind, and perversion of view. And that's sanya vipalapsa, chitta vipalasa, and ditthi vipalasa. So these misconceptions pervert. They pervert perception, mind, and view. But there's 4 of them that do this. Perceiving impermanence as permanence, suffering as happiness, not self as self, and ugliness as beauty. So that's the 4 vipalasas. And you might notice that this is countered to what the Buddha calls the 3 characteristics. So hoping that things are permanent when they're not. So the 3 characteristics would be of impermanence, suffering, and non-self, that all conditioned things have these characteristics, but we're still, and then there's the beauty in what's inherently unbeautiful, and that's not within that's related to the 3 characteristics because of dukkha, because of impermanence, is what we try to see as beautiful is actually not. So this is just a very short extract of the verse that's in this sutta. Perceiving impermanence as permanence, suffering as suffering, not self as self, and ugliness as beauty, sentient beings are ruined by wrong view, deranged, out of their minds, yoked by Mara's yoke. These people find no sanctuary from the yoke. Sentient beings continue to transmigrate with ongoing birth and death. So these vipalasas are keeping us in the round of samsara, because we're going counter to things as they are. They're against reality. They're so this would be forms of ignorance. So the 4 vipalasas, again, I'm going to say how what I'd like to refer to them as or misperceptions. And this is seeing what is impermanent as permanent, and happiness in worldly things instead of dukkha. So this is seeing the seeking for happiness in what's inherently going to cause us suffering, and then self in what is not self, and seeing what is inherently unbeautiful as beautiful, and starting out with seeing what is impermanent as permanent. This is a denial, I think, on a lot of people's part, because it should be obvious to us that all conditioned things are impermanent, but we still seek security. We try to hope for some permanence and some structure and something to hold, something that's going to hold our world together. But it's all in flux. And but this also could include a belief in some kind of heavenly realm, or some eternal states. But in the Buddhist teaching, there's nothing that's conditioned, that's permanent. And then the next one is seeking happiness, and thinking what is a source of happiness, which is actually dukkha, which is actually suffering. And this is because we think that if we get what we crave, what we want, it's going to make us happy. And so craving is a cause of dukkha, according to the Buddhist teaching. It's a cause of suffering. So then there's this lack of contentment, because we're always trying to satisfy ourselves through the senses, and we think, oh, if I only just have one more, if I just can just get it right, if I could just get the thermostat just perfect, I'll be comfortable. It's like something like that, so we're always fudging things and trying to get things just right, but it's always not going to be satisfactory. It's always going to cause suffering, because even if we get what we want, it's impermanent, and then we keep wanting more, and the craving itself is dukkha. If you start getting sensitive, you'll see that craving is dukkha. It's a just uncomfortable feeling, and it's what compels us or propels us into grasping for more and more, and because we are trying to avoid that discomfort. But we're not going to get happiness when we get what we want. Temporarily there's maybe some gratification, but that's it's not going to last. So instead, we can look for happiness inside, peaceful states of mind, just really cultivating, letting go. But we can also be cultivating wisdom when we see the causes of suffering. And then and just also noticing when we can let go of that craving, where there's an opportunity for happiness to actually arise when we let go of the craving itself, rather than trying to satisfy it somehow. So in deeper states of meditation, the craving will fade away, and will experience a happiness that's not based on the senses. So this can help us with letting go of that misperception. We really see how we're causing ourselves suffering, seeking happiness in the wrong places. And the next one is about seeing what is not self as self. And I'm going to read another extract from that same Sutta Nipata. See how the world, together with its devas, has self-conceit for what is not self. Enclosed by mind and body, it imagines this is real. Whatever they imagine it to be, it is quite different from that. It is unreal, of false nature, and perishable. This is all talking about the self, what we think of as self. Nibbana is not false in nature. That the noble ones know as true. Indeed, by the penetration of the true, they are completely stilled and realize final deliverance. So there's hope. Really looking into the false nature of the self. And it talks about mind and body, and this is the basic things that we consider self. And then seeing what is inherently unbeautiful as beautiful. And Bhante Sujato translates this as ugly. The things that are ugly we see as beautiful. And in the Theravada tradition, and the monastics contemplate the body as asubha. This is a subha practice. So we, in a culture where there's so much emphasis on trying to make the body beautiful, like makeup and doing your hair and clothing and all this kind of stuff. And that's all on the surface. And so we start looking at the parts of the body, starting with the hairs on our head and on our body and the skin and nails and teeth. And then we go inwards. Well, we have to imagine inwards. We can't, I mean, not very many people have that psychic power that they can actually see it. But you can also, if you've studied anatomy or seen pictures or something, you can kind of visualize it. And it's really to balance the mind. A lot of times it's talked about as repulsion, being the repulsive. There's some other really strong words that they use, but to describe it. But it isn't meant to create aversion for one's own body or other people's bodies. It meant to cause the mind to come into balance and to see things again as they actually are. And so the mind can come to equanimity doing this practice. But it's meant to so we're not attached to this body, wanting this body to be young and beautiful and all this attempt that people have at trying to preserve their appearance or enhance their appearance. Because this is really tied into the sense of self and also rebelling against the reality of impermanence. So that is the last of the four. And so ignorance keeps the four misconceptions going. And the four misconceptions are actually forms of ignorance, as I said before. And ignorance is what keeps us in the rounds of samsara and keeps us suffering. So this is why we really need to understand these four vipalasas. So then I'm going to continue reading. I think this is from the Vipallasa Sutta again. But when the Buddhas arise in the world, those beacons reveal this teaching that leads to the stilling of suffering. When a wise person hears them, they get their mind back, seeing impermanence as impermanence, suffering as suffering, not self as not self, and ugliness as ugliness, taking up right view they've risen above all suffering. So there's hope for us. So we need to develop this wisdom to overcome ignorance and to reflect on the Buddhist teaching. You need to take it seriously, really. And so when we start to put the teaching into practice and develop clarity of mind when we're doing the meditation practice and allowing all our thoughts to drop away and getting in touch with the body or the breath or whatever, getting into detail of the mental processes. This is helping with the clarity of the mind. This is helping with the development of wisdom. And then this process naturally happens. It's like I was saying, the factors start falling into place. And then this allows wisdom to arise in the mind. So hearing the teaching can still our minds, or just the practice of meditation can still our minds. And then what we're doing is diminishing or letting go of greed, hate, and delusion, which is keeping the mind confused. And then this process takes a lot of time and patience, but it is worthwhile. And we can find what is really, truly beautiful internally. So I have a sutta extract here. And this is describing the mind like a metaphor. The metaphor is gold. And that's refining gold. A mendicant committed to higher mind should be focused on three foundations from time to time: the foundation of immersion, the foundation of exertion, and the foundation of equanimity. Energy, I think, maybe I don't have the Pali right here, so exertion may be virya. They need all these three in balance, and not just one. It's like when a goldsmith or a goldsmith apprentice prepares a forge, fires the crucible, picks up some gold with tongs, and puts it on the crucible. From time to time, they fan it. From time to time, they sprinkle water on it. From time to time, they just watch over it. So this is metaphors for those three. So bringing up energy would be blowing on it to bring up the heat, and sprinkling on it would be the samatha, the samadhi. And then just looking on, that's upekkha. So all these, you need to do these at appropriate times. You don't want to heat up the gold too much or it's burn it. You don't want to put too much water on it, or you're never going to get out the impurities. And then sometimes you just look on. But when the goldsmith fans it from time to time, sprinkles water on it from time to time, and watches over it from time to time, that gold becomes pliable, workable, and radiant, not brittle, and is ready to be worked. Then the goldsmith can successfully create any kind of ornament they want without, whether a bracelet, earring, necklace, or a garland, a golden garland. So you can do whatever you wish with it. In the same way, a mendicant committed to higher mind should focus on three foundations from time to time: the foundation of samadhi, immersion, the foundation of exertion, the foundation of equanimity. When a mendicant is dedicated to higher mind and does these things, their mind becomes pliable, workable, and radiant, not brittle. And becomes rightly immersed in samadhi for the ending of defilements. So this is the importance of this practice. So we can see things clearly. We can abandon misconceptions. They become capable of realizing anything that can be realized by insight, to which they extend the mind in each case, in every case. So this is a beautiful metaphor for working with the mind and how it's similar to gold. So, so then the brilliance of wisdom can truly come through. And this can happen in meditation or listening to a teaching. And we've had a few, it's often in the suttas where someone very unexpectedly enters the stream. The Dhamma eye arises in a person. It was 2 weeks ago. We had a Digha Naka Sutta, and Digha Naka was a skeptic, and he was challenging the Buddha, and he had this a nihilistic view, and the Buddha challenged him about his rigidity of view, and then he taught him about the body and Vedana. Was actually a Suba. He was teaching him, and then the impermanence of the body, of the feelings. And then so the Diganaka had the Dhamma eye opened in him, and it says, and then the stainless, immaculate vision of Dhamma arose in the wanderer Diganaka. Everything that has a beginning has an end. Then Diganaka saw, attained, understood, and fathomed the Dhamma. He went beyond doubt, got rid of indecision, and became self-assured and independent of others regarding the teacher's instructions. So he entered the stream. And what was beautiful in the sutta is that Venerable Sariputta was attending to the Buddha. He was a Sotapanna, and he was just waving a fan, keeping the Buddha cool and listening, I'm sure, attending mentally to what the Buddha was saying. But he unexpectedly became an arahant. He was already a stream enterer. So this came up spontaneously. The conditions just came together. He may even been some kind of samadhi, just doing this fanning, and but the teaching was able to penetrate. And then the Venerable Sariputta was standing behind the Lord Buddha, fanning him. Then he thought, it seems the Buddha speaks of giving up and letting go all these things through direct knowledge. So this is very important. We need to understand for ourselves, see for ourselves, see how the misperceptions as they are as a misperception. Reflecting like this, the Venerable Sariputta's mind was freed from the defilements by not grasping. So this wisdom, and there's this letting go that happens. And then Diganaka then said to the Buddha, magnificent Master Gotama, magnificent Master Gotama, Master Gotama has made the Dhamma clear in many ways, as though he were turning upright what had been overthrown, revealing what was hidden, showing the way to one who was lost, or holding up a lamp in the dark for those with eyesight to see forms. I go to Master Gotama for refuge, to the Buddha and the Sangha. I will receive the going forth under the Master Gotama. So,
you put the paper up here, and then while you read the paper, they seem to be looking at the people.
I see. Anyway, she's giving me instructions about how to be sneaky with my paperwork. Anyway, so that was just about it. It was like what I was going to share, and I was going to open it up, hoping that Ayya Suvijjana would have some brilliant, unexpected words of Dhamma for us. And so the wisdom eye can open spontaneously, or it's said to do so when we might least expect it, not by force, but we have to set the conditions for this awakening to happen.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So I turn this over to Ayya Suvijjana again, hopefully for some words of brilliant words of wisdom. And
I would just add one thought to Ayya Suvijjana, a lovely talk. We were meditating before about the senses, about the sense contact, by way of touch through the body, or whatever other sense could arise. It's known, it's stated in the sutta.
Ayya, it is hard to hear you.
Okay.
You're muted.
I think you might need to take the mic back from Ayya Suvijjana.
Okay.
is your mic
Can you
on?
hear me now?
Oh,
Can you hear me well now?
Still a little low. It's still a little low.
Our systems are not good. I'm going to take the mic from you.
Now you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Very
Okay,
good.
so we just have to learn which button to push. We were meditating before about the contact of the senses. The Lord Buddha told us that if you pay attention to the senses, we might notice that it's impermanent, that it's falling apart, that it is always becoming otherwise. Anyata bhava. So whatever you think it is, as soon as you see it, it's becoming something else, which destroys the delusion of self when you can see it. If I had told you the answer during the guided meditation, then one might just be thinking about the concepts and not having the opportunity to directly discover it through the direct experience. It's said that while a person is on the path to the stream entry, they might understand these things through reasoning, or they might, out of faith, they might have heard these teachings and take these teachings on board and hold these ideas that have been offered out of faith. But then to make the breakthrough requires the direct knowing and seeing about impermanence and non-self in that case, and that falling apart quality is what cuts any kind of residual clinging to anything at all. If it's falling apart, what's the point of clinging? So then it's very questionable in trying to offer a guided meditation or a meditation instruction without giving the answer to encourage each one of you to know and see for yourself. Each one of you might be in a different place in your practice. So there's a combination of hearing these ideas that are expressed in concepts, and then are expressed in words, and then those words and those concepts become like a kind of a framework that may enable us, if we got caught up in seeing something in a wrong way, to be able to look at it in a different way by framing it differently. And that's all very good. But then the silence of meditation, when the light comes on, when that brilliant thing happens, it's happening within that space of silence. And it only could be afterward that we could write a term paper about it, because the experience itself is direct. It's not a verbal thing. That's my thought at the moment. If I put this back like this, now, unfortunately, we've got two microphones, and I got to manually switch them back and forth. This may be a good time for questions or comments. If anybody who's joining us online would like to offer from their own experience. Or ask your own questions. Okay, Richard.
Thank you, Ayya.
Yeah, mute.
No, I can hear, but you can't.
Okay.
Okay. Now I think we can all hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Ayya. Since this winter retreat topic is about Sotopan, I've been trying to think of a way to explain how you can actually attain it. And although it's very important to, as a Dharma follower, to understand the Dharma from an intellectual perspective and go back and forth. Buddha has a whole description of the process where eventually you're teaching it to others because this helps you memorize it and everything, and you're memorizing it and things like that. But to actually cross over, I believe there's a question that everyone has to face. And that question is, if I really understood the Buddha's teaching, then I would achieve Sotapanna. So you have to look at yourself squarely and realize that there's something missing. There's something missing in your approach and your understanding. And it's that missing factor that's causing like a blockage, that's causing your mind to be blocked. So this process will awaken like a doubt. Okay, why am I not achieving Sotapanna? And that will allow you to let go of a lot of your preconceived notions and try to come to the bare essence of the Buddha's teaching. And in that state, it's sort of like the sutta that the Ayya was mentioning, Dignakata, where Sariputta, if you read the sutta, he says to himself, oh, the Buddha is really talking about this letting go, and he realizes, oh yeah, that's what I should be doing. I should be letting go. And so he lets go. So it's very similar with coming to Sotapanna. You see what the Buddha is really talking about, and that causes that sudden change in mind. There's sort of an argument going on, like what is, some people say, okay, enlightenment is sort of like an instantaneous thing, and other people say, no, it's more gradual. But this is sort of mixing two things together. There are two things which are instantaneous. Sotapanna is instantaneous, once you've done the gradual preparation, but the actual effect is instantaneous. And so is Arahant. But the two in the middle are more just gradual evolutionary experiences as you're going along. And because of that, and a little bit of mix up in, what's one and what's the other, sort of like an overlap, one can say that it's both instantaneous and gradual, but the bookends, they're actually instantaneous, and the ones in the middle are more of your cultivation, of your development, leads you to transition from one state to the next. But this, you just have to be honest with yourself and say, well, if I really understood what the Buddha is teaching, then I would achieve Sotapanna. And therefore, you can kind of start re-examining everything you're thinking about and try to get to the root, the yoniso manasikara, right? The source of this mana. Where is this mana, this false identification? This is mine. This I am. This is myself. Where is this coming from? And that will help you make the breakthrough. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for the sharing, Richard. I tend to feel that between the concepts or the ideas, and then there's the activity, all the activities we do to try to get more life. So I think that a person is like a kind of an action figure, and that we can understand it in terms of like, what are the actions that we're in the process of doing. Like concepts could be thought of being sort of like timeless and static, but actually we're holding on to certain concepts that are holding us back, as Richard was saying. They're holding us back because we're clinging to them in relationship to the action of being where they're constantly this action figure, like a comma maker. This is, you could get a child's toy like that would be creating commas, and so that then perhaps like because of some fear of the unknown or fear of disillusion, fear of losing the self, that then we're like holding onto some concept, just like a person on a ship at sea or something would be holding onto the mast to preserve them, protect their safety, and so that's the reason why then people get into all kind of situations where they social situations or emotional situations, and they're clinging to certain kind of views and opinions and positions and everything else. But then, as you go deeper and deeper, when you get down to the very base of this manas, this self-conceit, we're holding something because we want to do something. And so then part of the beauty of meditation is if we just could do nothing for 40 minutes, do nothing. Stop doing anything. That's a cliche, but it's really true to realize that it's not necessary to be continuously doing things, creating more sakama.
Susan has something.
Okay, so now I'll call on Susan.
Thank you. This talk and reflections, guidance. I wanted to say that I don't always relate to the word craving or desire. They're words that, but anyway, what I do sense about it is that I often don't like the way things are. And to me, that is, whenever that's there, that is a craving or desire for things to be different than they are. Seems to me that is the way for me to know if there's craving or desire. So I think those two words I find are interesting. How one knows, and to me, when there's hindrances, there's craving and desire also. And that is actually, I think, it is actually my own mind that I need protection from my own mind. My own mind is what I need protection from, not the world. It's my own mind. My own hindrances are actually my problem. And so those are just, so if I can keep myself in metta, the practices, it actually protects me from my own mind. It also protects me from whatever else, but mostly I need protection from my own hindrance. My own mind is attacking me, just like everybody. And when I see that, oh, that's why they're acting that way, and I want to change them. Well, this was so powerful to hear how opposite this is. Well, no wonder nobody's interested. I'm interested, thankfully, in this. This is, I see that this is true happiness, not what the world's offering. So, but I can't convince anybody else, because this stuff is so deeply in us, these hindrances. So maybe it helps me to have compassion for that is in everyone, these minds. If you have any feedback for me, I would.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
For me? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I think that you're observing what's called the dukkha and the danger, and the within our own minds, and you were saying that rather than craving, you notice that you want things to be different. There's a not liking or not wanting, and that's actually a kind of craving. So that's a very important observation to make, and then to see, yeah, just you're developing wisdom by seeing that, seeing the danger, and then you so it sounds like you're really on the right track. I think to experience, like you're saying you're cultivating metta. So you experience what's arising in your mind, and it is kind of like the Buddha talks about anger and hatred like coals, hot coals. And then when you're engaging in anger, you're taking hold of those coals with your bare hands. And then you may be tossing those coals at other people. Now would be if you were, yelling at them or, expressing your anger towards other people. So, but to know that that's danger, and to know that, okay, I can feel the heat before I even touch the coals. And then you're going to pull your hands away. So to be just very much aware of that, like you were saying, how I'm just calling it danger. You had some other word for it. There was like your mind was attacking itself, and then the compassion too. That's really beautiful. So give yourself credit for developing wisdom by observation. This is one thing. There's a inference that's going on where you see what's going on in your own mind, and then you realize that other people are experiencing the same thing, and they're being driven by all these impulses that are arising in the mind. So the bringing awareness to ourselves helps us with the others, and so be patient with yourself, because it would be nice if we could just say, okay, I'm done with that kile, so just throw it in the trash, recycle bin or whatever. But it takes time, but like I was saying, just really being aware of that. Oh, getting your hand close to that hot coal and go, oh, that's gonna burn. So I hope that's helpful.
Very, very helpful. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, that adds to it. Thank you so much for that feedback. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
No questions?
Well, I was noticing first of all, thank you for the talk. I was noticing when you were talking about making karma like an action figure. And, if a person is in a situation where they have to do a lot, they have to act, they have to go to work, they have families, duties. I was wondering if you could say something about how to encourage a sort of a detachment within the activity, because everybody can't go on retreat and everybody can't become monks and nuns and be on retreat all the time. So I wonder if you could address that.
Now, you can hear me now?
Yes, AA.
My idea is to look into, this is the Pali word, it's called sankhara, which is called formations. And it could be in terms of our volitional formations, like what we want to do or what we want to be. And then those things that we do intentionally very easily can become habits, and habits can very easily become our character, and our character then can very easily determine our destiny in terms of rebirth. So being lost in volition without seeing the danger is taking us the wrong way. But then if we see the danger, and this is where it really takes this breakthrough of wisdom to actually cut the identification. So then it's like, we're washing the dishes, but we don't really care whether or not the dishes come to be clean or not. We don't care whether we're going to be criticized or not. We don't care whether we're going to reach the goal or not. It's just each moment by moment, the only thing we care is to be mindful and kind in the way that we're doing the things moment by moment. And then the other part of what's called fabrication is we've got so a whole like a belief system of like what the world is like. So if we think the world is a very dangerous place filled with people who are out to get us and like really unsafe or something like that, lights a certain fire in us that creates a lot of volitions that then again puts us on this karma path. So then if we've got this this real curiosity that's saying, well, I could be wrong. Maybe it's not what I think. If there's any situation, the total situation, moment by moment, it could be otherwise than the formation that I've got in my mind about the way it is. And so that leads to a kind of like this radical open-mindedness. And I believe that, but it's so natural and so normal that people they build up some cars and then they live on them. And it's like we're feeding the sankharas and the sankharas are eating us. And the breakthrough, I think, or one part of the breakthrough is to just I'm no longer. I mean, like you're still like it's sort of like the body and mind and the brain are still doing the same kind of things that they were doing before, but there's something in you that says, well, there it goes again, just doing its thing. Yeah.
It's like that,
Do you want to?
there's that,
I can.
it's other than what we think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And then the Buddha also was saying how it's other than what we think. And this is the thing, it's how it's so unexpected, and that the wisdom that arises without us forcing it. And then our job is just to be present, like you're saying, and to be aware, and to be cultivating the wholesome states as well. So thank you everyone for your kind attention.
We will
We should
close
we
by
should
giving our respect to the Triple J. I'm gonna move this a little bit.
we put this over somewhere.
The Buddha's in the middle of the picture,
Should we turn off the mic?
and here we go. Araham Samma Sambuddha Bhagava Buddham Bhagavanta Abhivadin Svakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sanghasamho Sangham Namami.
Thank you, Ayya.
Thank you for your patience sharing. May all of you realize the best in the Dhamma.
Thank you, Ayya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, Ayya.
Okay, thank you.